we look at how metaphor is used and misused, what literalists do with literalist interpretations, I want to use the Bible because everybody is familiar with how many times the Bible has been written and rewritten. So the corruption of our understanding may be deliberate. That's why I asked Frug about the question about Marx and Lenin suggesting that religion is usurped by the powerful in order to manipulate and control the masses. So that's quite possible, and I don't think anyone denies that probably happens. Mainly, I think it's incidental. Mainly, I don't think people are out there like Lex Luthor's going, I'm going to take over the world by making everybody into a passive Muslim. I think it happens in stages through lack of understanding of the text they have in front of them. Okay, so we attempt to fix the language. Now, what we see, or what I certainly see, is a lot of people actually following 7th century tradition rather than following commands that are given to them, universal commands, because they're not accessing the universal language. They are trying to find a truth in the words as they hit them, okay, and not seeing language as fluid. So if we attempt to fix language, over time, that language starts to creak. And so it goes from the ridiculous to people who still stand here today and tell us that God created a woman from man in 6 days, and dinosaurs, well, that was just a big trick to fool us all. We have real problems, and the religious belief looks more and more ridiculous and less tenable, because we've tried to fix the language in a place where 1400 years ago, in the case of the Quran, where we have, our language has moved on 1400 years. We have different conceptual understanding in literal terms. We have the same understanding in metaphorical terms. Okay, this I think is where the problem is with understanding. And if we look at how corruption has occurred, we can see that it's not only leads to ridiculous, it leads to tragedy. If we look at the situation of Palestine today, based on the Zionist belief that Palestine is actually Israel and was given to them by God when they were rescued by Moses out of Egypt and they went to Palestine. Well, I want to show you how ridiculous that, to understand that story in literal terms is. This is a map I took from a Learn About Judaism site. Okay? So I'm not trying to corrupt anything. This is how they teach the story. This is a biblical map, and it tells us about the story, the journey they took, the Exodus. From here, where they were chased out, and of course they had to go through the Red Sea parting, so they have to go down to the sea. Okay? And then there's a mountain involved, where Moses gets the law, and they build their camp. Right, so they had to find a hilly bit of land, so they had to go down here. Then, of course, they have to cross the River Jordan to get to Israel. Well, we all know the River Jordan's on the east of Palestine. So then they have to go into Jordan and come back here. At the time this is supposedly happening, there were already established trade routes from here to Gaza. So why would they take that route round to get to this geographical place, Israel, when they already knew, because they'd probably come from there, they knew that there was a trade route. So literal interpretations over time have to change. They can't change the text, so they've changed geography. Okay? Because this mountain has to exist in their story in real life. So they have to find a mountain. So they found a bit of a sand dune, and now this is Mount Sinai. Okay, so this can lead to great tragedy. So I picked a verse out of random. I opened the Quran and I picked this verse. This is just for me. I'm not trying to tell you that this is what it means. I'm just trying to show you how we can look at different ways of understanding if we open our minds to the idea of language being transient. Okay, so the metaphor within the Quran. If we think in terms of the linear scale, that we understand time as motion, that you are going to, or you have been, I have been an atheist and I'm going to be a Muslim, being, doing, having, these verbs can be used in different ways. So, if, future times are in front of the observer and past times are behind, then one thing is moving, the other thing is stationary. I'm the dialectic centre in this. I'm what's stationary. Time passes in motion in front of me. So in terms of reading the text, I am static, the text is moving. Because when Farouk picks it up, he looks at it from a different angle, a different place. His dialectic centre is different. So my perspective when I pick up and I read the Quran is quite clearly different from somebody in Saudi Arabia 1200 years ago, because I have a different frame of reference. So when we fix the language and we try to fix the concepts, we're going to have two very, very different versions of what's going on. When we try to access the higher level of understanding, we're going to get the same message. Okay, so let me try this out with you. Please don't throw things out. It's only an idea. So I took this verse, 17:1, I think it is. You all know this. Muhammad is taken on a night journey to Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Okay, so we're all familiar with that. Now I want to look at this a little bit. Well, who the we is, I'll do another time. Okay, so it doesn't say, the Quran doesn't say, and Allah took Muhammad in the middle of the night and took him across to Al-Aqsa Mosque for no discernible reason, and it has no real meaning. So let's say he really did that, then okay, so he went to the mosque and he came back, and what meaning do we derive from that? Okay, so to me this seems like because the hadith actually tells us that it is the actual building in Jerusalem and that Muhammad went in the night. With this, I'm going to start talking about hadith then. So with this verse, in order to make that have meaning, we need to create a story around it. This is why we need things to explain things, to explain things, to explain things. We now have people who explain the hadith to us, to explain the hadith that explain the Quran. And then the Quran tells us all the time that it explains itself. So this is where the problem comes. So if we just break this verse down, Muhammad isn't mentioned at all. So does God only have one servant? Is that the servant? Or could the servant be anybody or everybody? Perhaps the reader. Okay, the static person in this moving verse. Why does it say by night? It doesn't say he took him through the night or in the night. He took him by night. Okay? In this sense, I think night, we all understand nighttime as a metaphor. Day and night, light and dark, these are very, very usual metaphors. So if you take somebody by night, this implies that night is a verb. I've taken you by doing something with you. I've removed you, I've taken you by what? By night. How can night be a verb? If we look at it in terms of metaphor, how do we understand night? Darkness, struggle, fear, all of these, it implies negative. So in this journey, the servant is taken from one place of being by something to another place. Okay? So did God take Muhammad through the night to Al-Aqsa so that we have a magic trick in the Quran? Or is it trying to tell us something at a much more metaphorical level to reach something deeper inside our psyche, that we, or the servant, whoever that servant may be, was taken by night, by some kind of struggle, some kind of darkness, from one situation to another. What Masjid al-Haram and what Masjid al-Aqsa are, it is up to you to decide. But I'm pretty sure it's not a building in Jerusalem or any other place. These are states of being. What those states are, I have not thought about. I just literally picked this text, this line from nowhere, to show how this idea of metaphor works. That metaphor uses verbs where we tend to use objective. What's the word for an objective? It's not a verb, it's a noun. And actually, nouns can take the form of verbs. If we remove our own prejudice about what a metaphor is and what language is capable of, we can access whatever this message is at a more direct level, because there is a lot more to what our minds can do than what our mouths can speak. I hope. Okay, so, and that's it really. Grasping, all I'm trying to do is say we're grasping this aspect of being. We talk of being. We are being something. We are in a state of something. So, and to me, it's not, in the English language, it's no mistake that state is a geographical entity as well as something internal. We literally do take concepts of being and make them into things. And I think this is what has been done with divine texts over and over again, which is what led me to just, you know, I don't know why anybody reads that stuff until I started reading it. Okay, so that's really all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to change the meanings of the Quran. I'm not trying to tell you that it's saying something different. I personally think that your relationship with the Quran is your relationship with God. How that develops is between you and your Maker. All I want to do is try and plant some seeds. Whether they grow, what they grow into is not my business. I think Hitler's mum might say that. Thank you very much.